The Hospitals Association of Newcastle believes a joint approach will achieve more from the government. The association, which met yesterday to discuss its common problem, includes representatives from the Royal Newcastle, the Mater, Western Suburbs and Wallsend hospitals. All agree that the budget allocations this year are insufficient to meet their needs.
If we don't get to see the Minister and we can't sort it out that way, I think all of the hospital boards feel that something has to be done, and I don't think that we'll be just sitting back and taking it lying down. We'll have to do something to try and stop us being forced to situations where we have to cut services further.
What do you think you'll do?
Well, I think there are a lot of options open, but I don't think that this is the time to discuss those. I think now we're hopeful that we'll get to see the Minister and be able to sort it out that way.
Part of the requirements of the management course was to undertake a research project. This year's students selected tourism in the Newcastle and Lake Macquarie area. They presented the results of their research at a function last night. The students called for public awareness, the need to spend more money, better accommodation and recreation facilities.
We are basically saying that Newcastle has a lot of potential for the tourist industry, and that up to date there have been certain factors that resulted in the tourist dollar not coming to Newcastle. We are hoping to correct the situation by making certain recommendations as to how this situation can be changed.
Mr Munro says the students' work is aimed at the government, local councils and business to try and create an awareness of the potential of tourism in the area.
We looked at if the visitors were family people.
The crane belonging to Carrington Steel was being driven along Maitland Road. The jib came loose from the cradle and swung out towards the footpath. It knocked over a traffic light post, some power lines, and came to rest against a power pole after smashing into the front of a factory building. The facade of Delerco was badly damaged. Traffic was diverted around the crane, but both lanes were soon cleared. Had anyone been walking along the footpath at the time, the accident could have been more serious.
Before she suffered a stroke in 1967, Diana Law was a high-level executive in Britain's computer industry. Professional opinion at that time was that she would never speak again. Although still suffering some impairment, she has proven experts wrong and has since worked tirelessly to highlight the plight of other stroke victims, who she says need first understanding.
Relatives haven't got a clue. Suddenly, but stroke is imminent and it's frightful, and my speech is 2 years I haven't got one single phrase, and it's very vital. But the parents and the relatives are the ones I'm very, very sorry for. Me, it's all right.
On this tour, Diana Law has spoken to groups in Hong Kong, New Zealand and Australia. Her audience today included many who've also suffered strokes, but are now working to overcome their own disability and that of others through an association known as the Volunteer Development Centre.
Certainly she was a remarkable.
Merriweather Club marked its 75 years on the beach appropriately with the Surf Carnival that brought out all the best traditions of the life-saving movement. Since it was formed in 1908 after a curry miner was attacked by a shark, Merewether Lifesavers estimate they've rescued something like 2,600 people. Fortunately, no one was in need of rescue today, but the heavy surf gave boat crews some pretty hairy moments.
Managed to pick up this wave now, which will take them through, providing they can hold it. They could be in a little bit of trouble there. How about that? Let's hope the boat and the crew are okay. Just watch the head.
In the Premier Boat Race, the open event, Cooks Hill led home nobbies and Avoca. Throughout the day, a drag to the north of the beach and a solid shore break kept competitors on their mettle in all events. When the overall scores were added up, Swansea Belmont won by just 2 points from Redhead. Merewether Club officials say they were delighted with today's carnival and say they're looking forward to celebrating the club's centenary. Swansea Belmont Surf Club's annual Superman race is certainly for the super fit. From this start at the 16-foot skiff club in Belmont, the 27 competitors had to first swim 1 kilometre to Lake Macquarie Yacht Club. Out of the water and onto the road. The second stage was a 4 kilometre run to Pelican. The event provided classes for juniors, cadets and the over 35, but it was the open class that set the pace. At Swansea Channel there was a chance for competitors to give their feet a rest and make their arms do the work. A fresh nor'easter sweeping down the channel made the 2 kilometre surf ski section pretty hard work. For the last water leg it was off the skis and onto Malibu boards to paddle out around the breakwater and into the open surf. At this stage Brad Fernley, who's a regular competitor in Ironman events, had a lead which appeared unbeatable. And that was how the race ran out. For the final 100-metre beach sprint, Brad had no need to worry about other competitors. His time for the race was 56 minutes and 2 seconds, a minute 23 better than second-placed Greg Kelly. Both are from Swansea Belmont Club and gave that club the team's victory. Third was Chris Corwell of Redhead. In one way, though, all 27 starters were winners. They all managed to finish the course.
The issue of grants under the federal government's wage pause program came up for review at a council committee meeting last night. It appears that the council was on the wrong track about the funding arrangements. Aldermen expected every program put forward to be fully funded. The Commonwealth is only offering about half the amount for each. For that reason, the projects are being trimmed to match the amount of money the federal government is willing to give. Deputy Mayor Alderman Edwards says the council doesn't have enough money to match funding for all the projects that were listed.
Of course, at this time in the council's budget we just haven't got any money to match the grants with, so we've now asked the department to fully fund the projects that we put forward, and we're hopeful they'll do just that.
Do you think that, and according to Alderman Edwards, matching Commonwealth grants is a common problem for local government.
Well, the information that's been forthcoming to this council anyway is that other councils have had the same problem, and I believe, I'm not certain, but I believe that some of them have decided not to take up the grants because of that very reason, yes.
It was in the 70s that Lake Macquarie became a municipality, primarily to lift its status. There are now close to 160,000 people living in Lake Macquarie, more than enough to become eligible for classification as In fact, Lake Macquarie now has about 20,000 residents more than the city of Newcastle. The figures are contained in a report compiled by the Hunter Valley Research Foundation. Lake Macquarie Municipal Council can see a number of benefits in becoming a city. It could even pave the way for a twin city arrangement.
The
Mayor, Alderman Pasterfield, is one alderman who'll be voting for city status at next week's council meeting.
It's just purely a matter that in local government today you have to have recognition. The size of the population, the size of the area, and the many difficulties that we experience as an area, taking in a very large number of people every year, well, it's necessary for us to be able to register that and register it quite clearly, and I think that one of the ways of doing this is in seeking city status.
Quite obvious by the non-resignation of Mr White and Dr Heron that the Liberal Party had no intention of changing its direction.
But you've got the opportunity of voting for to get rid of Mr White at the parliamentary meeting.
As an individual I would have that, but there's no guarantee one would get the numbers to vote against Mr White, and I have made the decision that the party is not likely to change its course, so I've decided to change my party.
Would it not be fairer to resign and to stand at election again as nationals? Wouldn't that be the fairest thing
I think
to do?
Mr Lane, I think, simply answered that question before. We campaigned on a coalition ticket prior to the elections. The people in our electorates are well and truly aware of our feelings, and the matter lies there.
Your workers on polling booths were abused by people. I don't think if anyone wishes to accuse that, I'm not going to subject them to that sort of nonsense again, or I'm not going to be associated with it.
Yes, Mr Lane and Mr Austin, two very, very able men and experienced men, have joined the National Party, resigned from the Liberal Party.
Did you ask them or did they ask you?
No, it's not a matter of did they or not. I think that's just one of the things that happened automatically. They found themselves in a position that they couldn't accept any longer, where the executive of the Liberal Party, as I understood it, would not either direct or do something about the situation in which they found themselves. They've tried for a week to resolve that situation. They couldn't resolve it, and they felt in the interest of good government, they wanted to come over to the National Party.
The derailment at about 1 o'clock has closed one of the tracks on the Northern Line, although some trains are still getting through. 5 wagons left the track, ripping up about 200 metres of rail. 4 of them overturned. The guards van slammed into a trackside pole, slicing off the wagon's roof. Workmen hope to have the line cleared by midnight tonight. Nobody was hurt in the accident, although some people have been inconvenienced. Passengers from Singleton are being taken by bus to Maitland to meet connecting services.
It's a case of out with the old and in with the new in the southern Newcastle suburb. The bridges around the harbour have seen the most noticeable change. Construction of the railway system main road, in place to make way for the new electric trains, has been in progress since March. It's been built by contractors employed by the SRA at a cost of $527,000. It should be completed by the end of next month. While the main road bridge has been out, the Newcastle Street Bridge has borne the traffic flow into the Cardiff shopping centre. But it will also be closed next February, so a new bridge can be built. Last month, the $140,000 Harrison Street Bridge was opened to traffic to allow a smoother access into the centre. In Main Road, a number of long-established shops are being taken over. One of Cardiff's first stores is to be replaced by a number of smaller shops. The same thing has happened in the Clark Rubber building. The Cardiff building has been taken over by a food hall.
Just Food was opened today by Mrs Dulcie Lane from Cardiff. Mrs Lane won the chance to open the centre in competition. Just Food has a number of specialty food shops, such as a hot drink shop, a butcher and a fruit shop. Spokesman for the owners, Mr Roy White, says it's expected that the 5 bacon shops will be filled by Christmas. The new Mary Gilmore room is part of the Workers Club refurbishing program. Theatre Restaurant is its new role, starting with the 20s and all that jazz. The show features 60 songs, plus plenty of anecdotes and comedy based around the 20s era. There's also a full jazz orchestra. The show was written by John O'May, John Dietrich and Carolyn Gilmer. It was brought to Newcastle in 1977 by a touring company. That's not likely to keep the crowds away this time. It's still good toe-tapping entertainment.
And my shadow, not so to tell my troubles to.
Cohiba Club's champion bowler Darby Ross was welcomed home today after winning the Australian Champion of State Champions title yesterday. Darby and his good wife Barbara received a hero's welcome with club members and bowling association members at Pelican to greet him, and it was certainly great to see. It might only be a plain-looking wooden shield, but it spells bowling supremacy.
Darby, your greatest thrill in bowl so far?
Oh, yes, would have to be, yeah.
You've had plenty of success, but this is really a pinnacle of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
What was it like when we're going through the mathematics of the countbacks and all sorts of things?
Well, we didn't know either way, you know, both Bert and I. We went down to the bar and had a beer and just said, let the experts work it out.
Sure, and it came out your way?
It came out my way. Well, he took it pretty good, and I was very fortunate to get it by .11 something or other, whatever it was, you know, and fantastic.
Were you happy? You must have been happy with your form to win it, but do you think you played as well as you can do?
I could have played better in the last game. I think it might have been a bit uptight, too busy watching what was going next door, because that was vitally concerned my game. If Bert got beaten, of course I couldn't get defeated, but I could have concentrated better, and the green got too quick for me.
When you go back to defend it next time, you'll know.
Well, I've got to win the state first to get back to defend it.
I know you're going to do that now.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations, a marvellous result for you and a marvellous result for Cohiba and Newcastle.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
And when Newcastle's Australian champion left the airport, he did it in style.
The 20s and All That Jazz is theatre restaurant for people who want something a bit more classy than dirty ditties, blue jokes and singing from upturned bibs. The show's a marvellously written tour of the 1920s, blending the songs, the dances, the history, the comedy and the spirit of the times into a non-stop entertainment of the highest order. To really do justice to the show, the performers should have that unmistakable air of sophistication and polish. Louise Morris, Paul Macomb and Adam McCauley aren't really in that league, but what they did give us was a tremendous amount of energy and hard work, and these made remarkably good substitutes. Louise Morris, whether belting out a big number or wistfully acting out a scene from the 1920s, didn't let her audience go for a second, and they loved her for it. The production does well in all departments. The jazz band under the direction of Alan McFadden was terrific, the food was excellent, I think it's the best I've had in a theatre restaurant, and the price is extremely reasonable. Well, now the management has to make sure that all patrons can see properly. This is crucial because the show itself really sets a high standard for theatre restaurant in this city.
Textiles and Design 83 is a display of handmade work on behalf of the Hunter Home Economics Executive Association. It opened today at Garden City and features the work of textile and design students from Hunter High Schools. Some are still at it, demonstrating their skills. The exhibition includes fine needlework in baby wear, sleek wear and blouses, embroideries both traditional and creative, applique and patchwork. Also sections of soft toys, spinning and weaving and garment work using woven and knitted fabrics. This impressive display is on again tomorrow.